I always even watch some other television and stuff, and that I have to see for later. I have to really listen to you first, you know what I mean?
Africa dafa baxna ki dafa ñaan ki dafa rafet won ma ci ki bunjul ki dafa bunjul wan ñande ke saway ki dafa bunjul won ma ci ki bunjul ki dafa bunjul daf leen rafet yow men tamé ndax ingama get daf leen rafet yow men tamé ndax ingara daf leen rafet yow men tamé ndax ingara did you know that's a richer Africa did you know that's a richer Africa did you know said the whole world love it, did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud.
How can a slave and master both serve the same God? How can a slave and a master both serve the same God? Then both of them expect their prayers to be answered by the very same God? Is that possible? Dinastilin, Aquaba, Eli, greetings. Dr. Iman Blak here. Metamorphosis in February. After 30 years and more celebrating Black History Month in Jamaica, I'm going to have to take a pause and to revisit what has been the nature of this celebration for over 30 years and how has it advanced the cause of Black consciousness, if any, after 30 years of pushing this construction of Black history. The island is actually in reverse as it relates to Black consciousness. So I have to stop and take a real hard look at what is the content of this Black History Month and the genesis of Black history as a month of celebration, and why should we not celebrate African history instead of Black history? Is there a difference between Black history and African history? And we have to be very clear in this now because we have to know what to celebrate in. So we're going to explore that in this metamorphosis. And at the moment I speak to the item about that, I'm very perplexed, extremely perplexed with some events unfolding. And this has nothing to do with this crime and violence thing now. I see where a couple months ago, our MP died. And the ruling party found hundreds of millions of dollars to distribute to people under the guise of work. And all that was a ploy of politics to get people to vote. Well, all right, and everybody say yes, it is the norm, and that was expected. People are move all street light and give other people light just to get all kind of shenanigans going. Everybody does, yeah, well, you know, them say it's all right and it's expected, and it go on. So I was follow along with the thing and saying, because what's going on? And in that same moment now, we see all government workers being held ransom now by the government. After being on no leave, no raise for the last 5-6 years, and with the economy rising over the last 5-6 years, we hear say the people who supposed to be serving the nation at the basic level can't get no more income. And there's a whole lot of strangulation going on and talk about foreign loans and agreements, all kind of thing. And I watch the thing. Because personally now, I, as a educator at a certain level, put in more than 20 years in the Ministry of Education, you know. Yeah, I put in that amount of time as a sports master, as a teacher, head of department, dealing with sports and history and social studies, all kind of things I'm on doing in the school system. And highly qualified. And give government and the Jamaican people over 20 odd years, much of that at Teach Feed School. I also give the government almost 10 years at the university, lecturing and doing other things there. And you know, so the man them don't want to give me my pension. The man them hold on for my money and have I running up all around the island now, you know, up and down the place. Attitude is like say you don't work for it. And you must beg for it now. And to me, you know, that them hope say you're dead. And when you're dead, they must whoop in the money and serve it amongst themselves. But what tick off everything now, why I'm so perplexed, is that another government minister now decided to resign. And decided to call another by-election. And all of a sudden, a set of money just surface again now for the same thing. We're going down to St. Mary. And I said then, where these monies coming from? Every time these situations creating the politics. And why is it those monies can't be found when the teachers and the policemen demand a reasonable income for them service? So I'm very, very perplexed now, and really I look keenly at this overlord that we have called government. How is it them can find money to prop up them position in government and power, and they can't find the money to prop up the citizenry? Why a teacher have to sell clothes in the staff room? Why a teacher have to go a Panama and Miami and buy clothes and buy and sell? Why a policeman have to have 3-4 taxis on the road are us against other man who that is their main work. So Mr. said the thing very, very skewed. Seriously skewed. And it's going to take a serious viciousness, you know. And it has to be directed at the people who are in charge of the place. In a very, very serious way. Because it baffles my brain now to see that millions of dollars can be found to give people to bush areas now just because there's a by-election. So it shows me now, so really and truly, you know, it's going to take an uprising driven by intelligence now. Driven by consciousness and knowing exactly who the enemy is on the Jamaican plantation. Overstanding institutions that govern the plantation. And so when you hear the government members talking about the problem is the system, it makes it look like it's something outside of them is a problem. The material the problem is the system. Well, I say no, them is the driving force in the system. And if you saw them drive the system, they will have to hold them accountable. We have to go arrest them. We have to bring them up to the people's court. Because it's the courts that them create, it don't really serve the people. In other words, no, it's an upheaval needed, you know. Yeah, in terms of how the thing structure and the level of service the people don't get. And the people paying taxes. So we can't understand how is it pension money can be paid to people who serve the plantation. They encourage you to get an education. They encourage you to get a job. So you take a government job. And the government only for about 40 years. From about age 20 to age 60. And you slave for 40 years for the government. And when them done, them give you a letter telling you the best of endeavors. And you're on your own. And when you must get what you think is due, you have to be pulling teeth. And cost of living rising. Well, you see, this month here, within the expiration of Black history, it is critical then that we really make the distinction between the Africans and what is Black. Because the unity to overthrow this system will have to be based upon our identity. And we can't claim this Jamaican thing now, because it's not working. Calling ourselves Jamaican, we're not uniting around that. The only time we unite around Jamaican is when the sportsmen perform. And everybody jump up and say Jamaica. But when the party is over, we're on our own again. So that identity not working to unify ourselves. We're going to examine African history. Why is it we need African history every month? Why isn't that the thing that we do here in Jamaica? Otherwise, at the end of this month, we're going right forward into European history. And we live European history from March right round until February again next year. So we're going to focus not on Black history, for whatever that means, but we're going to focus on African history. And make the distinction now between African history and biblical history. Because bag of confusion. Why the people here are confused in their own history. We're confused between the Bible stories and the history of Africa. So we're going to try to run through that. And we're going to address the difference between the people with pigmentation and the people without. Metamorphosis. We have this concept in front of us now called Black History Month. I was always an enthusiastic agent of promoting history, black people's history, African people's history in this month. And the movies always, and the television take it up and they always show certain shows that they call black shows. And they sort of present certain events out of the history of African people. The tragedy is that it's always events that coming out of slavery. There's always events that are connected to the enslavement of the race. We hard to see documentation and evidence of the race before the capture. So, considering the experience now of the people of Africa in this Western plantation system, the biggest plantation in this hemisphere is really the North American plant. And so the oppression was highly intense in North America versus the Caribbean. Number one, the Caribbean had weather. There was climate that a man, even though he was an enslaved being, he didn't have to deal with what the North American man had to deal with, which was the winter. And that is a brutality by itself. There's a whole alien culture to the African, who is a tropical being. So the oppression is brutal in North America. And the beating out of the identity was more intense there than even in these places. Because in these islands and places off the mainland, Africans were able to maintain their integrity and identity for decades by living in isolated communities in high mountain tops. These Africans were later called Maroons because the Spanish gave them that title because they left on their own, live on their own. They wasn't a part of Rome. They weren't a part of Europe and European culture and European ideology. But in North America, that privilege and that situation never existed. It was total subjugation, total domination by the white culture out of Europe. So the belittling of the African was brutal in North America. Whole heap of torture and them documented. And violation, sexual violation, molestation and sodomite. All that is unimaginable, reach black people. Where sons having to become breeders for them own mother. And so you get the term mother effer. Is where the turnaround where black men were forced to do certain things with them own mother to produce certain stock. It's a wicked and brutal situation. So the demoralization and destruction of the identity of the black man was intense on the North America plantation. Supreme. And it required a supreme being within the African to survive. This supremacy of being that kept the African alive, both in North America and in the Caribbean, is a power that is within all African people. But we have been conditioned to think that the power now is outside of ourselves. That is somewhere in the sky. That supreme power is now being told to us through indoctrination that the supreme power is in the sky. That power is always within. So the experience in North America, enough Caribbean people don't have a grasp of it. Don't have a grasp of it. Don't know what it is to really live amongst Caucasians and you're in that minority and they have that brutal domination. So, Black. So we're going to look at how is it the introduction of the concept of the Negro Week began. Carter G. Woodson is credited with starting the concept of the Negro Week. And we're going to see why it had to be a Negro Week. What was so important about giving the Negro in America a week to celebrate? Metamorphosis.
Styles FM, you're my number one. Planning a party, club night out, stage show, a gospel concert, or even a business sales event? Let Styles FM be a part of your promoting tool. Take advantage of our low-priced promotion packages with commercials, interviews, giveaways, reviews, and much more. We have special offers when you mix and match and bundle your options. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. Styles FM for the most effective way to exploit your marketing dollar.
Start your foundation with the #1 block factory and hardware supplier in Portland. DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies Limited. They have large stocks of high-quality construction and hardware supplies. From electrical, plumbing, painting supplies, and building materials, DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies has you covered. Visit any of their locations in St. Margaret's Bay, Port Antonio, or Buff Bay. Call 993-4415 or 913-3530 or email DIB_block@yahoo.com. DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies Limited. Your foundation starts with them.
Architects, draftsmen, and surveyors, get your drawings printed in high-quality professional standards. We can satisfy your printing needs. Whether it is for presentation to your clients or for submitting building and subdivision application, make it VJ Printing Services. Whether drawing by hand or with computer-aided softwares, we will plot your negatives and print the copies as you need. We do high-quality white paper printing that is water-resistant and never fades, unlike traditional blueprint. For more information, call VJ Printing at 893-2266.
Are you thinking of a place, extraordinary place where you can get a wide variety of Jamaican cuisine, scrumptious local dishes, and at the most affordable price? Zilla's Kitchen has the widest menu to suit your appetite and lifestyle. We're located at Bridge Street, Port Antonio. Place your order for pickup or delivery service. Call us at 453-6030. That's 453-6030. Zilla's Kitchen, the restaurant of choice. We never close. We never close.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Titchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610 for more information.
The gold, the nickel, the cobalt, the magnesium, the lithium, all of those resources required to upgrade and motivate and develop civilizations. They're all on that land. The people who were raided and captured from that land and brought into these northern plantations didn't come here under the umbrella of being Africans. People came as Akan people. People came as Coromante, Ibu, Mandingo, all different nations, what the white man called tribes of people of black pigmentation were scraped up and put in chains and shackles and packed like sardine and corned beef and shipped across to these plantations. When everybody landed, everybody just got this one identity now called African. So no more could we claim our ethnic roots and hold on to our ethnicities, whether you be Yoruba or not. So the whole thing gets squashed, and for hundreds of years, the people of the continent in a brutal and dehumanizing condition in this Western plantation society. So there is total elimination of consciousness, of self, a degrading of consciousness, of history, your own story, degrading within the consciousness of your own mythology and philosophy and psychology, literally transforming kings and queens and intelligent people into chattel. Chattel meaning pig and dog and goat for sale. So this is the barbarity that I, with supremacy from within, lift himself out of. And it's within that whole framework now in North America that Carter G. Woodson saw it necessary to begin to recreate and redevelop sites of pride and situations where the downtrodden would begin to see some sense of glory out of that brutality. So it was important for him to create this week of recognition of the Negro. And again, bear in mind that the Negro was the title now that was applied now to the people. We're no longer even Africans, nor of any ethnic group. Everybody now was bundled up under this thing called Negro. And Negro became the identity that was drawn from the language of the Spanish, describing the people as black. But the word Negro really comes from the Greek necro, which means dead. So this is the association in linguistics now why dead is also usually associated with black. It's a linguistic thing, and it becomes something that they live out. So Negro became the official title by the European of the people of Africa and the black people, Negroes. But we can recognize now that where the people are coming from, there was that word didn't exist. And there's no land called Negro land. The only land that those people knew, and what I know, was a continent. The same continent that we call in Africa. That land that is far, far away. So the consciousness now is going to be driven away from the people, where Africa is going to be pushed further and further away. And identity now moves from being African and ethnic, whether you're Mandingo or Zulu or Swahili or Iwe, to becoming Negro. And to consolidate the Negro identity now, they're given, INI is given a religion. And the religion now will consolidate now the cultural identity. And that religion will be overall Christianity. So what is being formed basically on the plantations, both in North America and the Caribbean, is a new being called a Negro Christian. This is 200 years later, after the extraction of our foundation out of the continent and the barbarity and the brutality in the Atlantic Ocean and on land, and after all of the terrorism, we end up with an identity now called the Negro Christian. And the Negro Christian is given a set of ideals and promises, and is given a concept of what is history. And the version of history now that the Negro Christian gets now is a version of history that has a center that is grounded in Europe. So when we talk about history now, we have to be careful about the center from which we observe and look out into the world. And the center that we have been forced to accept is a Eurocentric, a European-centered view of the world, a European-centered view of history, of his story. We get a European view of his story. And what we have been lacking for the longest time is an African-centered view of our story. And so within the celebration of Black history, I think the focus should be more directed now on African history and setting it clear as to what is the distinction between African history and European history. And in the likewise frame, what is the difference between African mythology and European mythology? Because before there is history, there is the mythology. Yes, before the history, there is the mythology. And the mythology is what explains what the history can't explain because no man was there. The mythology speaks to the origins of the earth, of the deities. And those are thoughts and ideas that are projected now out of the imagination of man. But which man? The African man or the European man? So in our celebration of this month, it is about time we clear up this confusion. And as I'm saying today, enough of the confusion rests in the conflation of African history with biblical history. And what we make the distinction and free yourself from biblical history. We have also recognized that there's also earth history. And the earth is more ancient than the Bible, and the earth is more ancient than man. So we have to also examine the history of the earth. Geography, geology, anthropology. We draw upon other sciences now to get an understanding of the vastness of where we live. So when we talk about history, it's whose history and the history of what? There is a history of the Bible. There's a history of the earth. There's a history of Africa. There's a history of Europe. Whose history do we examine and whose history do we use as our guidepost? Black history is a misnomer because it gives you the impression that you're studying the history of black, which is not the same thing as the history of the people and of the continent of Africa. Black has no real connection to a land necessarily. It's more directed to the biological state of the being, which is a whole different perspective that we're going to look into. Africa connects to the land. And the land is the basis of all power. And we need the land to establish our home base. The Chinaman has a home base, whether he lives in China or not. The Indian has a home base. The European has a home base. The African has a home base. We have to claim our African identity. You see, identity theft is a wicked act. Yes, identity theft. And once your identity has been stolen, you literally lost. Just imagine that you get up and you go inside your house, and when you go outside and they're calling you by a different name and nobody responding to you by the name that you know. Total disorientation. Yeah, man. You go someplace and tell them, say, your name Cassidy. Them say, no, man. No, man. I know your name Cassidy, man. Your name Robert Flinch. And you say, no, man. Cassidy, my name. And you say, all right, all right. And you go to the next corner and man say, wait, what, Robert? And you say, hold on. No, man. I know some name. It's a bug of disorientation. Once your identity has been tampered with, and the race has been suffering from identity theft, So we have to reclaim our identity to help to break up this crisis within identity. So the African history is vital, and understanding our blackness is crucial. Metamorphosis. Of our celebration, they give us 4 weeks, and the government and the people of leadership foreseen reggae now in the same 4 weeks. So it's Black History Month and it's Reggae Month, and everything that black man must rejoice in now being crammed up into this 4-week period. Why? Because the next month everybody gone forward into Christendom. Body start follow behind the Jesus philosophy again, and Rome takes over. And then into Easter and the bun and cheese and the death and the crucifixion, and the whole illusion start again. Maintaining the slavery of the psychology. So with the whole evolution now of this celebration coming from Negro Week. And Negro Week was important in America because being such a minority force in the United States and dominant by white culture and white laws and everything, the same thing that rule America today. Ruling America from those times, 1800s, brutal. And so the intellectuals who afforded themselves that opportunity to study in America, enough black men became intellectuals, not academics, intellectuals, and therefore activists. And we're promoting the Back to Africa movement and try to establish Liberia as a state for freed Africans. Where today we see Liberia with a president who coming out of the grassroots, and President George Weah. So the need to identify a consciousness amongst black people in America was important. And so Negro Week was critical, and you get enough fight in America because that was a way that Carter Woodson thought that you could begin to generate a sort of consciousness about race in a positive way. Because the only thing black people had to look at in terms of race history was the Middle Passage and the plantation life. Because everything else was disconnected. Right? Disconnected even spiritually by telling the people that they had to come out of Egypt and follow Moses. So it's a historical and spiritual disconnection from Africa. And so the effort to remember, reconnect, re-establish the pieces began with earnest. And so Negro Week was important. It could not be considered to be African Week because the black people were very, very far away from re-embracing the concept of being an African. After so many years of, hundreds of years of brutality and name change, get beaten until you couldn't call your African name anymore. Them beat we until we name John. And then beat you to we name Mary. And we accept Peter. And we say, call our children these names when they're born. John, Mary, and Peter, and Paul, and all kind of Roman forces. We start injecting our picnic them. You know what children? I'm on terms of picnic are derogatory. So I cut it out. So we have to recognize the hardships of the black man in the winter of North America under the minority population status and the dominant brutal white culture. Negro Week was important. Negro Week also expanded to the month. The month. So the celebration expanded from 1 week to a month. And it wasn't called Negro Month. No, we began to call it Black History Month. Because within America, there were some movements in cultural identities wherein enough ones and ones after years of study began to realize that the Negro was a construction, was an idea. It was a myth created by the white man. Because there was no such people called Negroes. When certain studies started to reveal that nobody was ever born a Negro, that identity was a created one by the white man. So there was an attempt to reclaim now African identity. But there's a battle in America still at that time. So black power and black consciousness became the rallying cry, where black people now begin to see themselves as black people. So the movement was really consciously from Negro to black. And in that black consciousness now, Africa became more aware, more visible in the minds of the black man in America. So there was Black History Month, a very important event in America because of the dominance of white culture. And it has brought enough awareness to the black man in America, to the extent wherein even today, a lot of the black men and women who have made a large amount of money have moved to Africa. Kaepernick right now, a football player who started a protest movement, he is building things in Africa. Education institutions, a lot of the entertainers. So there is a direct link between the black man in America and the African continent. Now, in our era now, space, called the Caribbean, many have criticized and downplay the need for Black History Month in a place like Jamaica. But when we look at our history in this region, whilst the black man had the difficulty of being that type of servant in North America, in the Caribbean now, the black man, his identity wasn't an issue of whether he was a Negro or not. He was locked into this concept of being a West Indian. So the African Coromantee and the Yoruba and the ethnic forces that came into the region, all of that gets squeezed up and squeezed out. So Negro Christians were created and West Indians were made. So the political identity was West Indian. And the racial thing was Negro, and the Christianity was a religious identity. So we have to see where we are, where we're coming from, where we reach, and what is it we need to really embrace, because certain things definitely not working. So we have the Negroes in Jamaica now. And these Negroes are indoctrinated by the British. And the Negroes in the Caribbean that are British control behave more British than the British. They embrace the colonial order. But there are pockets of resistance continuously. And in a place like Jamaica, Rastafari emerged as a serious pocket of resistance to this colonial Negro-Christian construction of the African. Because the Rastaman come to reclaim the African identity, pushing through the Christian identity, pushing through the Negro, and going into the mainland. And that was all inspired by the King, His Imperial Majesty, Rastafari, who became the beacon to which black man in the Jamaica and the Caribbean could look towards. So we see now that there is always this innate resistance and desire to reclaim and reconnect with our original self. Our original self is not Christian. Our original self is not being Negro. Our original self is Africans. And within the context of our biological makeup, we are black people. So the pigmentation of our skin is what gives us this vibration. That what allows us to communicate with the environment and develop what we're going to call spirituality. So Black History Month should be revisited and we reconsider embracing African history and try to deal with African history every month. There are enough countries to examine and pull from each month when you consider how many countries there are in Africa. And I have to view that once that direction is taken hold on the population, the youths will become more respectful of themselves. And it's an attempt to tone down what people call in violence, because violence is driven by anger. And much of the anger that is being experienced in Jamaica is not just strictly economic, but is deep frustration, bordering on hopelessness, and lacking a sense of purpose, a sense of self-worthiness. And we cannot attack that and heal that through knowledge of our story. And moving forward again, we're going to really try to make the distinction now between the story of African people and the story of the Jewish and the Hebrew people as recorded in King James Version of reality. Because we have a great amount of conflict there, trying to fit African history into the Bible, trying to fit African history into Noah's flood, trying to locate African empires before Adam and Eve. So we have to find our story and be centered in our perspective. Metamorphosis.
Guess what? Styles FM has a new business number for you to call, text, and now WhatsApp. 518-2399. To advertise your business and events, call, text, or WhatsApp us on
518-2399. 518-2399.
Don't forget, 518-2399.
Remember Styles FM on social media. View us on YouTube, Styles FM Radio. Follow us on Instagram at Styles FM. Like us on Twitter at Styles FM 961. Become a fan on Facebook, Styles FM 96.1.
Are you thinking of a place, extraordinary place where you can get a wide variety of Jamaican cuisine, scrumptious local dishes, and at the most affordable price? Zilla's Kitchen has the widest menu to suit your appetite and lifestyle. We're located at Bridge Street, Port Antonio. Place your order for pickup or delivery service. Call us at 453-6030. That's 453-6030. Zilla's Kitchen, the restaurant of choice. We never close. We never close.
This is Ricardo Suave, inviting you to tune into Smoothic, the show for the ladies, with DJ Prestige, from 9 to midnight every Tuesday on Styles 96.1 FM, Portland's best.
Girl, I've been watching you.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Titchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610 for more information.
where does the history of the African people begin? Where do we go to find a starting place to speak of our story? We have recognized, number one, that before we even talk about the story of the people, we have to just mention about the story about the planet on which we live. It has a history. And the history of the planet is very important to give itself a sort of context in which you're going to locate the history of a people. So earth science is a very important science and a very important discipline and should be an important subject in school. Earth science. Earth science deals with geography. And geography, of course, deals with land and climate. Earth science deals with archaeology, which is exploring sites and diggings and finding artifacts of past civilizations and cultures. And there's a lot of science that goes into measuring the age of the things that are found. Of course, the most popular one is carbon dating. So once we begin to recognize the importance of scientific techniques, which are radically different from superstitions, scientific techniques, we can begin to measure age, like the age of a plant or the age of a rock. And once you get into that science and you start check out time, it begins to blow the mind. So science now opens the window for an expanse of time. When we talk about time now, we're not talking about 100 years. We're talking about time within the concept of thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years. Yeah, tens of thousands. We're talking about the age of the earth now. I want to begin to talk about the age of the earth. We're going into the millions, and we have to accept billion. Now, there are a lot of people whose brain cannot accept the number called a billion. It's like them can't imagine a billion. Because at a certain point, certain things become unimaginable. But we are constructed of billions of cells. Billions of cells make up man, humankind. Billions and billions of cells. And it all begins from two. So from two cells, man evolve, multiplying, meiosis and mitosis, cellular activity, because this is what's happening now. At the foundation of life as we know it on earth, the cell is a basic unit. We have to use science now to help understand our story. The cell is the basic unit. So whether you're going to engage in plant life, fish, bird, the life forms that we know on this planet, the basic building block of these life forms are cells. And as I say, as far as I know, humankind, man, come from two basic cells. When they unite, tremendous explosion, and there's fusion. And then from that explosion and fusion, there's a creation of an identity. An individual comes from that fusion. Now, the earth itself now, the genesis of the earth is there is no evidence to demonstrate and explain what we call the creation of the earth. So man has to move away from history and delve into the dimension that is called mythology. Because man is going to begin to try to explain things that occur in his imagination long before he himself even exists. Unusually. Very unusual. That's why we have it, we call it mythologies. And every culture has its own mythologies. And in the myth, there is an explanation for origins and beginnings. The Orientals have their mythologies. The Inuits are the men who live in the ice cap. They used to call them Eskimos. They also have their mythologies. The Hindi people have their mythologies. So a myth is not something that is an unusual writing to be found in a particular culture, because all cultures have their mythologies. What I and I have to know with some amount of clarity is what are the mythologies that are African and what are the mythologies that are European. Because remember now, you're going to attach these mythologies to the, let us call, the beginning of your history. And who is going to write these mythologies? Because these mythologies now are not necessarily based upon truth or falsehood, They're based upon trying to give the people a sense of power. Yeah, a sense of worthiness. That is the value of a myth. A myth can also enslave you. It can give you a sense of worthlessness. It can also degrade you. So a myth is a feature that is in every culture. It deals with legendary or traditional stories with or without basis of fact. So we have to know now, in this time, what is the mythology that African people must embrace in trying to understand African history. We're not going to ask about the mythologies for black people. We're going to bring it down to the people who are claimants to the continent. What is the mythology? And who has given us the mythology that we hold on to? And remember now, mythology deals with gods and deities and heroes and demigods. The Romans had their mythology. You can read Roman mythology. The Greeks had their mythology. You can read Greek mythology. The Egyptians had mythology. You can read Egyptian mythology. You can read Dogon mythology. You can read the mythology of the Vadoma people of Southern Africa. In other words, every people that are organized, that can be identified as a cultural group of people, they have their mythology. The issue that we're having in this Western plantation is that we have African people, black people, Negro Christians, and they're all embracing the mythology of Europe. And that mythology is put in a book. And it is in this book now that has been placed at the center of the lives of black people, and that book is called the Bible. And that is a book that has been given to us, that has a mythology that is supposed to give us satisfaction in a beginning. This is a book that tells you about in the beginning. In the beginning. So there's a chapter in that book, the first chapter, which is a myth. It's a mythology. It's an attempt by the Jews and the Hebrews to explain their beginning before history. Because now they try to start their history now with Adam and Eve. So you have to see how to read the book. And when we begin to read the second chapter of Adam and Eve, that is no longer history. It's not even a mythology now. It becomes a fable. Because a fable is a story that involves and engages animals that take on human personality. And this is how we get caught up now with the serpent that can speak. That is a cue to allow us to know that that story is a fable. And that chapter 1 is a mythology. So chapter 1 of the Bible is a myth. Chapter 2 is a fable. And African people now have been caught up between that mythology and that fable as some form of explanation for our beginning. We have to let go of that. And in order to claim a beginning, we have to examine the mythologies that comes out of Africa. And the most global mythology to which Europeans have stolen and plagiarized is the mythology about creation. And the mythology of creation in the African mythologies is a creation that involves males and females in the deities. So the gods and the deities in African mythology were always males and females. The Romans followed suit, but it is the Europeans who have dropped out all the females and have put our central image, a one God, as the center. And from that one God, we have this concept of a son. And it is the Son of God that has been wielding havoc in the lives of black people. It's that same Son of God that has become a demonic force in the family of black people, disturbing the balance between the male and the female and the child. So, make we revisit why we celebrate this month and what the focus of the celebration ought to be. It's not about black movies and movies that project and talk about black people and movies that talk about slavery and movies that show black people being helped out of slavery by white people. We have to break away from that and recognize that that is a blip in the history of African people. That's an experience of the enslaved Africans. That's not African history. And we will make a difference. And we will let go certain things, and we will redefine, we say, a certain kind of way. We have to let go of the Negro. We have to let go of that Christian Negro construct. We have to let go of that African American terminology and realize that is Africans we are, and black people we are, in our biological and psychological makeup. And we're going to delve a little bit deeper now into why is it that we are black. Metamorphosis. educated people, I won't call that intelligent, educated people defending this 6,000-year-old idea that the earth is 6,000 years old. No, this is a high level of denial and self-deception. Because you're deceiving yourself and going into denial of the reality of time and history and science. 6,000 years old. The pyramids are older than that. So what you're trying to tell me, the pyramids are older than the earth? This is the conflict that puts into the mind of African people who locked into Christendom and lose them concept of African history and are being ruled by Bible history. So we'll talk about time. And how is it that we use our scientific technologies to calculate about how much revolutions in terms of orbits around the earth, the sun that gives us a year, and how many of those have transpired already? Millions upon millions. And so the earth is millions and millions of years old, which puts man, the African man, within the same context. So the way they want to show it is like them denying us our anciency. We're trying to start us up in the Bible story, coming out of a place, a garden called Eden. Well, we can look at it, because the history of the earth shows that it has experienced what people would call the ice ages. There have been periods when the planet has become very cold. But guess what happened? It's only one place on the planet remain warm, even during the ice ages. It's Africa. Yeah, during all the ice ages that the planet has gone through, where a whole other place them can sustain life, where cells no longer can prosper because there is no heat, Africa remains the only habitable place on the planet. So we now lose focus of the anciency and the millions of years that African life has been existing. It is the Europeans who have come and cut short, and have tried rewrite this whole thing and jam me up in a little space called 6,000 years. And in that 6,000 years now, there's a flood that wash me out. And restart the world again. It's a bag of confusion. But we are pushed through to come to the knowledge through examining the anciency of the earth, the planet itself, the ocean, which is the foundation to life on the planet. The ocean has been here for millions of years. And so the life in the ocean has also been here for millions of years. Fish life, sea life. Up to today, man don't know what is down there. And some of those forms of life don't even need heat or sunlight to survive. Those are information that is coming to the front now. So the anciency of the planet is what we should be studying to come to know who we are as residents on the surface. And realize the anciency of the earth that millions and millions of people have gone through, and civilizations have been here for thousands of years. And that the planet has been in a situation where it was perhaps a situation where the planet has been colonized. Because the life forces that are in the cosmos are not limited to just this planet. There are other systems and stars and planetary systems and solar systems, infinite amount. The Europeans just discovering that. Them just discover, say, there's another solar system with planets. The Dogons knew long time. The Africans in the West knew long time about Mars and about Sirius, about Orion. The Mayas knew about space travel. All of these people are people of pigmentation. It's melanin people, ancient cultures, who live in an earth that is millions and millions of years old. They have Pleistocene ages. They have all sorts of terms to give to these ages to show you the anciency of the earth. Where the equivalent of the 6th day creation, it is not different from the 6 eras. There's a time when the atmosphere was not habitable. In other words, one couldn't breathe until there was a proper mixture of oxygen and hydrogen and helium and the various gases. These are processes that take millions of years. So we can't hold that 6,000-year concept that the Bible trying to tell black people. Because African people's history is as ancient as the earth itself. We have been here for millions of years. And we have been deceived because of the uprooting and the refashioning of our consciousness. That we think, say, all of us are coming out of a garden. The African continent is not just the way it is now. Because the Europeans have carved it up, and they've also defined that Asia is no longer connected. So it's a whole heap of unlearning. We need to experience, and we need to visit earth signs. Check out the ice ages. Where was the African during the ice ages? And then they give us the floods of Noah, that they want us to believe covered Mount Kilimanjaro. And the flood covered the Himalayas mountains and wiped out all black culture. This is what I and I have been forced to believe. And now to accept a fable and a mythology that's recreates our beginning. This time not in a garden, but this time coming out of an ark. A boat lock up with animals, 2 of each kind, for 40 days and 40 nights. No ventilation. No hygienic conditions. Rabbits them a breed up. No sanitation. And out of that, they want us to believe that the African nation would emerge to repopulate the world from Ham. Ham.
Are you thinking of a place, extraordinary place, where you can get a wide variety of Jamaican cuisine, scrumptious local dishes, and at the most affordable price? Zilla's Kitchen has the widest menu to suit your appetite and lifestyle. We're located at Bridge Street, Port Antonio. Place your order for pickup or delivery service. Call us at 453-6030. That's 453-6030. Zilla's Kitchen, the restaurant of choice. We never close. We never close.
This feeling is taking over me. I'm so excited.
Feel the euphoria.
Tuesdays from 5 to 9 p.m. with the Master Mixer Musical Maestro Digital Team.
Giving a total satisfaction with melodies and memories by the score. With the widest selection of genres and hits. So you don't know that program you turn up, you know. So you know Patek's a full dance, the one you slap with.
Digital and we are party. Yeah, we flawless. Euphoria the program. Every Tuesday.
5 to 9. Every Tuesday.
With the Musical Maestro Digital. Planning a party, club night out, stage show, a gospel concert, or even a business sales event? Let Styles FM be a part of your promoting tool. Take advantage of our low-priced promotion packages with commercials, interviews, giveaways, reviews, and much more. We have special offers when you mix and match and bundle your options. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. Styles FM for the most effective way to exploit your marketing dollar.
It's the final in the series for the signature event, Bossy Monday. Yeah. Sexy Lasandra bring the curtains down on Rumbar Rum Stars FM Bossy Monday. It's gonna be massive. This one is happening at China's Lounges at St. Thomas this Monday, February 5, 2018. Beats by Galaxy Sound. Rumbar treats all night. Drink responsibly while shelling the bar. Bossy Monday this Monday, February 5. China's Lounges at St. Thomas. Get there.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Titchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610.
The king, Dennis Brown, one of the many kings that we have in our pantheon. In a way, we had several gods and goddesses. We have several kings and queens of reggae music. Make no European confined us to their definition of who is king and who is not king. And by that token, restrict and limit all others who can rise to the same level. Like how them tell you who is our hero. And then them crucify that person. And then nobody else can rise beyond that person because them, you can't be a hero too. Anyway, different thing. So we're working out the distinction between black history and African history. And I am maintaining say African history is connected to the land. The history of the land of Africa and the people of the land. The indigenous people, the ethnic natives. So the word itself, we get the sort of etymology, and here that Afri is a Latin word that means black. And then there's some other interpretation that Afri means man, like man, homeland of, what's it? The cradle of mankind, like so the home of mankind. But whatever it is, it doesn't speak to the biological makeup of the person or the physiological structure of the person. It addresses a sort of identity driven by the nation, the national concept, the land. So we have to also work out now what is it now to be black people. Because there are black people who will tell you that they are not Africans. And there are people who are born in Africa who claiming to be Africans, who we look at and we know say, them is not African, but them born there. So what is it that helps to distinguish now who is black? And that becomes a problematic now because of the concepts that we get from the Western world about what is it that is black. But I'm going to deal with the biological aspects of blackness and maintain that black is a biological condition. Right? It's a biological state of nature. It's a state in which nature absorbs radiation and holds it and creates a scenario that is black. Now, that might be abstract, but if we look at ourselves from the level of being composed of cells, and we're all composed of cells, but you see the man who is called the black man now, his cellular makeup is different because he has chemicals that absorb and are soaked within certain cells of him being. By that, no, let me be more, trying to be a little clearer now. We accept that it's two cells everything starts from. One from the male, one from the female. Egg and sperm. And we know that they multiply and they grow. And over weeks and months, an individual begins to take form and shape in a womb. Now all of these cells, after a certain point, now become specialized. And the cells form tissue. And this tissue becomes organs and muscle. And in that evolution now, we have to look at what is it about the black man that makes him black. And it's about the physiological makeup. It is the physiology of the man, why we have to describe him as black. It is a function of the organs inside of that man that makes him black. In other words, now, it is a glandular activity led off by the pineal gland that releases hormones that create the melanin and the melatonin that gives I that biological state of blackness. So black is a biological condition. And it also has a spirituality to it. Because in that state of blackness, there's a unification at the level of energy. Because energy that I speak about now is energy that comes from the sun, radiation, all different vibrations of energy. And the black man is able to hold those energies, but in a specific place in the body. And the primary place of storage is the skin. So right away, there is a physiological issue that we have to confront within the black man. That physiologically now, he's made up to absorb solar energy and physiologically able to keep that energy in his being. And the organ of choice to keep the energy is in the skin. So it is a retention of that solar energy, all of that radiation within the skin that radiates the blackness. It's a state of nature. And why the skin? Because the skin is the largest organ in the black man. It's the largest organ of the African, the skin. And so the skin becomes an important sense organ for black people. It becomes an important organ for the storage of energy. It becomes an important organ for the storage of memory. So we are a unique creation based upon the pigmentation and the pigment that is within the skin cells. Now, these cells are not taught about in school necessarily. We are just told that our skin performs the function of perspiration. But the skin of the black man or the African is of a different nature than just a physical covering. The pigmentation gives the skin a psychological force. And if you examine, even look a bit closer, the African, as we compare him now to the European is absent with this melatonin production. There is no production of melanin from the pineal gland of the European. Because in the European, the pineal eye is calcified, it don't work. For 95% of Europeans, it don't work. So 95% of Europeans cannot look black. They just can't look black by nature because they don't have the physiological basis to become black. And the sun will not make them black. Because what the sun does is stimulate the pineal gland. And the gland functions at its highest level at night, in the darkness. So it's much to sort of visit in terms of science, overconstructed, metamorphosis. Yes, you're on the air. Greetings. Isis.
Yes, Firewall, Iman Blak. We do give thanks and praise to nice chillin' and greetings, from Las California State,
Ali? Yeah, man, we're hearing you. Go through.
That just a tone and still I try to pick up the ice, but more time we fight to the app them and to the airways. I get more fight to tune into metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
The fire blaze hotter.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm just at a life just go on and endure and keep the fire tempestuous pan,
Okay, may I hear you?
That be,
I hear you. May I hear you, my brother?
Yeah, man.
All right. So what that is?
They are Los Angeles, California right now, for you.
But I far from the fire, them. I far from the flood and the mud.
Yeah.
What you say? Ill?
Me never hear that fire.
We say the man far from the flood and the mud.
True.
All right. Just go and hold it safe. Here's up.
Keep the fire blazing for you.
All right, give thanks. Give thanks to the link.
Isis.
Yes, I lip on the vibration. Keeping it strong. Metamorphosis rolling on. Yes, we got the thing called emancipation, and then they gave us the independence, and from all of that, it just euphemisms. It's like calling the slave a worker. Euphemisms. And we're tired of them kind of isms. I tell you, all isms is problematic, you know. Yes, isms in language. So we work out the black because we keep celebrating Black History Month. And we sort of obvious what history is. A sort of recording of events and documentation of experiences and perspectives help to define history. But what is it that is black? And I'm saying the black is symbolic and represents the biological state of the African people. It's a biological condition, blackness. It's a gift of nature. It's a protection. And within that blackness now, we have to say it is it's such a powerful gift and such an asset that it actually is the foundation of the psychology of the African people. The psychology rests up in our skin. In other words, now, the psyche, or what we call mind power or thought power, all of that is real, but everything rests upon a physical foundation. Yes, everything has a physical base. And the physical foundation for our psychological makeup is our physiological structure. And physiologically, in terms of emotion and psychology for black people, is the skin. It is a site where we store our feelings. It's a site where we store emotions. So it is intertwined with our bodily actions and reactions. So how you interpret and live with your skin have a lot to do with how you manage and how you live with your own self. So there's a foundation of our psychology, which is in our physiology. And the physiological foundation is not just the brain. Because, check it out now, you know, as much as the brain is a central organ, the skin precedes the brain. The skin is bigger than the brain. And the skin stores emotions and stores feelings. And if you examine now the skin of the black man, as compared to the skin of the European, you find that this is where the power rests. And this is why the fight against the black skin is so strong. Because what the blackness also symbolizes and recognizes and sustains is a level of nervous cells. Remember now, you know, we are all made up of cells. Cells begin to specialize. and the most sensitive and organized level of cellular system in our body. We call it the central nervous system. So from the central nervous system, we experience sensations. And we are trained to accept that the central nervous system operates out of the brain. Central nervous system also has a system that is called the autonomic nervous system. That's a system that engages with activity that we're not conscious of. Our digestive system, our breathing, those internal metabolic activities. The autonomous nervous systems deal with that. And the central nervous system deal with every other thing else. But you see, in the African, you see the black people now, we have an extra, we have an additional nerve system in our bodies. Separate now from the central nervous system of the brain and the spinal column. We have an extra sensory perceptual system, ESP. And it has a physiological foundation in our skin. And from the level of our skin, I is able to sense and to feel and to experience feelings, experience intuitions, be able to communicate without using words through vibrations from the skin. This is part of what I'm calling the powers of pigmentation. And pigmentation is a real power, not just in man, but even before man, it's a power in the plants. If you tap into the plant kingdom, you find that there are basically two kinds of plants in the kingdom of plants. The plants with cells that are pigmented, and the plants with cells that are non-pigmented. And the pigmented plants vibrate and express that vibration in a color. That color is green. And so nature, if you look around into the environment, nature is green as a primary color. Plant life is green. And it demonstrates pigmentation power. Just like the pigment is chlorophyll in the plants. And it radiates green as a vibration. And it gets its energy from the Almighty, S-U-N. And it's no different in the kingdom of the black people and the Africans. Because the black man also expresses himself in nature through the powers of pigmentation. The pigmentation is not green. The pigmentation is black because the cells are not chlorophyll. The cells are melanin cells. So pigmentation of the cells, pigment cells that are bathed in melanin, creates a different sense of sensation and experience for black people. So intuition is natural. Clairvoyance, what people want to call telepathy, telementation, the transference of emotions and feelings through the skin. And so the hair also becomes an important organ. The hair almost operates like the antennas. So think about the skin spread out, flat, 12, 24 square feet of skin with millions of hairs as antennas. That's a very powerful communication agent. So I and I as black people now, we are powerful people because of the power of our skin, because of the power of pigmentation. And as I said, pigmentation is not limited just to man. We see it working in the plant kingdom. And if there's no pigmentation of the plants, there's no life on the planet Earth. It is through the pigmentation of the green plants that oxygen is created, that allows animals and man to breed. So there's a serious connection between the sun and pigmentation, whether it's in plants or whether it is man. So if you destroy your pigmentation, you're cutting off yourself from the Almighty Source. And you're destroying the foundation upon which your personality is built. The foundation upon which your psychology is built. And we know about psychosomatic ailments, where if the psychology is damaged, they show up in the physical. Because the psychology and the physiological side of man are closely related, especially within the black man. So we revisit for self the whole notion of black and the whole notion of being African and what is African history and what is really the history of blackness. Metamorphosis.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Titchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610 for more information.
Architects, draftsmen, and surveyors, get your drawings printed in high-quality professional standards. We can satisfy your printing needs. Whether it is for presentation to your clients or for submitting building and subdivision application, make it VJ Printing Services. Whether drawing by hand or with computer-aided softwares, we will plot your negatives and print the copies as you need. We do high-quality white paper printing that is water-resistant and never fades, unlike traditional blueprint. For more information, call VJ Printing at 893-2266.
Do you have or are you seeking a place to rent, seeking employment or have a job vacancy? Are you selling a car or having a garage sale? Then come see us. Let Styles do the advertising for you and you'll be on your way in no time. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. Advertising Style. Advertise with Styles.
It's Wow Factor Tuesdays with Chungy and Shelly. Every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's entertainment and interaction at its best. With features like the Share to Care segment, the Uprising 10 Countdown, and the ever-controversial Love Break. Yes, it's the Wow Factor. Your Tuesday mornings will never be the same again.
Are you thinking of a place, extraordinary place where you can get a wide variety of Jamaican cuisine, scrumptious local dishes, and at the most affordable price? Zilla's Kitchen has the widest menu to suit your appetite and lifestyle. We're located at Bridge Street, Port Antonio. Place your order for pickup or delivery service. Call us at 453-6030. That's 453-6030. Zilla's Kitchen, the restaurant
Metamorphosis, chanting down Rome with some black inspiration and inspired reasonings. So somebody asks you why you're black. What you tell them? Because I saw you look. So what does it mean to look black? And a man point to your shoes and tell you, but you know, it's black there. You're not black. So we have all sort of misinformation out there, and people have been encouraged to believe that because of their Christian perspective, everything black is evil. And they have been locked into a world of good and evil is symbolized by things that are dark. And all good things in those people's eyes are white and perfect and represent the light. That is the Eurocentric, European, Roman way to capture the imagination of black people. But we use science and psychology to liberate yourself. And we examine our own body, our makeup, to find out how we make up. And we are zeroing now upon the most vital, not vital, the largest organ and the most ancient organ in the body of the African. And that ancient organ is the skin. Now, physiologically speaking now, there are two dimensions to the skin, two areas, two sections of the skin altogether. One section we call the dermis, and the other section we call the epidermis. Now you have to know about yourself, you know. When a man tells you have to know yourself, you know, this is part of knowing yourself. Because if you don't even know your construct, how you know how you're going to operate, and how you know what causes you to operate certain ways, and you don't even know how you make up. So we'll start with the skin. And this is where the Europeans tell us now that this is where the curse of the European God has been laid upon I and I. Them say, is our skin get cursed? But they know the power, because pure reverse psychology them come with. So here is it about the skin now. Dermis and epidermis. And everybody have that now, you know. So we think. But hear this now. What everybody have is a dermis. And the dermis is the lower skin, because I'm going to tell you that there's an upper skin. The dermis is the lower layer of the skin. If you examine what is in the dermis, you find blood vessels. You find things that tissue. These are things that are within the dermis. Now, when you perspire, the dermis is at work. But you see, within African people now, there's another layer of skin on top of that. And we're talking about things that require microscope to look into. And that top layer now, we call it the epidermis. EPI. EPI is a prefix, meaning outer or above. So, once you talk about the epidermis now, what about the outer skin? Outer skin. So there's an outer skin and there's an inner skin. In order to bleed from a cut, you have to cut the inner skin. In other words, you have to slice the dermis for blood to flow. If you slice the epidermis, which is a very thin slice, no blood don't flow. So there's no blood vessels in the epidermis. So we say no, the dermis, it has blood vessels. It has vessels for carry something called lymph. It have hair follicles. There are glands in the dermis. And there are nerve cell endings in the dermis. So these nerve cells now in the dermis skin allow you to feel heat and cold and pressure. Physical sensations, physical feeling. So in order to experience physical feeling, it is the dermis that becomes active. In order to experience the flow of blood, it's the dermis. But hear me now, black people. we have a layer now above that now, which Europeans really don't have. It's called the epidermis. And you see, when you begin to examine now the epidermis of I and I skin, you find, say, it have 3 different layers. Yeah, man, the epidermis have 3 different layers now of cells. And you have to use the imagination and visualize what I and I speaking about. We're talking about 2 surfaces. An under surface called a dermis and an outer surface called an epidermis. And we're zeroing up on the epidermis of black people. What is in the epidermis? Where do we find the pigment? Where do we find the melanin? So when you start digging into the epidermis now from the top down, you realize if you go and you take a shower and you finish bathing and you use a towel and wipe your skin, you see dirt come off. And it's usually the dead cells from the top of your skin that you wipe off. But right below that level of cell is another level that grows upward, that replaces those dead cells. So we can talk about 2 layers of cells. The one that you wipe off and the one that replaces it. But hear me now, and this is where the whole science rests. There is a 3rd level of cells in the epidermis. A 3rd layer of cells. I'm not going to tell you this nowhere else. And this layer of cells, which is the deepest layer of the epidermis skin, them call it the Malpighian layer. I'll show you other things significant to black people and we don't know. And we're supposed to know this. So the 3rd layer of the epidermis skin is called the Malpighian layer. Why is it called Malpighian? It is called after the Italian who, let me say, discover it. An Italian anatomist, Malpighi. His name was Marcello Malpighi, Malpighi. Malpighi lived between 1628 and 1694. So this is now being discovered in the 1600s by the Italians, that at the 3rd layer of the epidermis is a set of nerve cells. These cells are living cells. Now, this is the most amazing thing, because we're not supposed to know that we have living cells in our epidermis, and that these cells consist of nerve endings. So hear me now. So you see the black people now, we have 2 sets of nerve endings in our skin. One set of nerve endings in the dermis that tells us about temperature and pressure. But we have another set of nerve cells in our epidermis. And these cells now are what are bathing in the pigment. The pigment transform these cells from ordinary nerve cells to pigmented nerve cells. And yes, the power they know, Pigmented nerve cells that allow us to vibrate and communicate at some levels and distances that defy the internet. So we have a special set of nerve cells in our system, in the epidermis skin, that the Europeans don't have. They lack that nerve system. They lack that level of... And you remember now, is that a little organ, It's a giant organ. So we have this gigantic nervous system that is separate now from the brain and the spinal column. And if we can awaken that system and become in touch with our own powers, we would liberate ourselves from all forms of mental slavery. So the liberation comes not from accepting a dogma or be fearful in your belief. Part of it comes to scientific knowledge of your own construction, of yourself. And so iron is black because of the function of our pineal gland. It's not the sun that makes eye black. It is the pineal gland that operates And when African people realize the pineal gland is in their brain, and that is the original I, then it justifies and explains the blackness. And our blackness is not just in our skin. It's wherever the melanin is. So it's in our eyes. It's in our ears. And we are sensitive. We are highly spirit beings because we have pigmentation, powers coming out of the epidermis level of our skin. So it makes more sense to embrace our skin. And you can see why we will be trained to hate our skin. Because if you hate your skin, you hate your own power. And the results of that are deleterious because of the relationship now between the physiology and the psychology. And if there's hatred at the level of your physiological makeup, psychologically, you have a problem. Metamorphosis. Yes, the sound of Maragini, the historian. That song has been a feature on the Metamorphosis, insisting that all these I&I listeners have this as part of their makeup. And the sounds and the lyrics become part of your everyday meditation. We are the builders. We have we are suffering from amnesia, from psychic trauma, post-traumatic slavery, as has us in a tizzy. But we're working our way out of it through self-determination and courage. And I want to speak a little bit about this new fad and fashion going around called research. Because it's a good thing that people have grabbed on to the term research. But like most things, we just grab it and run it into the ground until the thing loses its complete value. I'm glad everybody knows researching. But researching is not the same thing as reconstructing and reconfiguring black people's history. So it's not enough to just go and read what happened and come back and tell us that you read that and so that is research. We have to reconfigure the arguments them. Yeah, rebuild the conversation, reconstruct a narrative that is more positive for African people, not just regurgitate what the records say and just regurgitate what they say Google say. Research is about combining different angles of looking at the same thing. So you're looking at an apple, but you can't look at it just from the perspective of a farmer. You have to look at it from the perspective of a historian. You have to look at it from the perspective of a scientist. You have to look from the perspective of a cultural item. All different angles to come to a perspective and a realization and a new way of viewing the thing. The African people need to not just research, we have to rewrite. It's not enough to research and tell us what one book said 50 years ago. We have to rewrite and reconstruct some of those historical arguments and put them in a way that it elevates black people as part of the mission of those who want to engage in this process called research. Research meaning you're going to rewrite. Don't just search and come back and tell me. Rewrite. And in the rewriting, it can't be what you searched and found. There has to be a perspective now being added. Now, we hear from ever since that man is a social animal. And then we hear some man is a political animal. And then we hear some man is a religious being. And then we hear some man is a spiritual being. And we hear all of these proclamations trying to define what is man. And of course it means male and female. When it comes to black people and our experience now in the plantation life, we have been indoctrinated to accept the belief that we are driven by our feelings and that we are not driven by our intellect and that we are emotional beings. Well, all right. We have evidence that intellectually we are a superior people based on what we have done before and what we have continued to do with nothing. But I want to examine this idea of being feeling people. All we have is feelings. Because I say feelings now. Feelings is a force in man that I am saying pre-exists and predate is intellect. In other words, before man was able to develop his intellect, man had the ability to feel. Now, I am saying today I know that feeling can be viewed from two different perspectives, or even more. But for this reasoning here, we're going to use two. We're going to say physical feeling and psychological feeling. Psychological, emotional feeling. Two different types of feeling. Physical feeling, we know because we feel pressure, and we feel pain, and we feel temperature. So you can feel hot and cold and warm, and you can feel pressure, and these various sensations that register into our bodies, and we experience that as physical feeling. How do we register these sensations? It's through our skin. What level of the skin do we use? We use the dermis. So the dermis skin is responsible for registering physical sensations. And we live in an environment that we are bombarded by sensations 24/7. Sensations. But sensations manifest at different levels. And there's a physical and there's a non-physical sensation. These non-physical sensations now, these are still feelings. But they are feelings that we would say transcend physicality and rest in the level of the psychic, psychological and emotional feelings. And here is where the epidermis skin of the black man now becomes active. Because it is the nervous system in the epidermis of the black people that are sensitive now to emotional feeling, to psychological feeling is registered in our skin. Very, very serious argument being posited that our skin is a storehouse of our emotions and our feelings psychologically. And so if you disturb the black man and his consciousness about his skin, you disturb him psychologically. Because you're tampering now with him feelings. And if you get the man to begin to feel hatred towards his own skin, it's like a button for self-destruction. So based on how we are constructed, if we begin to protect the epidermis skin and become conscious now of sensations that are not physical, so we can feel, and what we would call in our local language, we can feel the vibes. And vibrations are what they are, vibrations. But where are they coming from? Out of the skin. And we express our feeling through our vibration. So there's body language, and that's our body language. Your body can talk. Your body has feelings. And your body expresses these feelings. And women are excellent at expressing their feelings through their body. Yeah, and men are very sensitive in picking up the vibrations of a woman's body. So there's communication, non-verbally, at the level of the skin. And them powers that we have, And them powers we have, and them powers that get defeated in the process of enslavement. So if you hate your skin, you're done. Once you can get an emotional feeling of negativity about your own skin, your physical body will feel the effects. And we call those ailments now psychosomatic ailments. And I'm sure decades of racism that have affected our psychological skin has affected our psychological mind. Serious thing. We have to think about these things as we celebrate a month of history. But there's a history of Africa. And there's a history of blackness. And the history of blackness is even more ancient than the history of Africa, because blackness is beyond just the earth. Blackness is in the atmosphere. It's in the universe. It's in the cosmos. All things emerge out of the blackness. And all things dwell within the blackness. The planets, the stars, all of those forces and bodies are within the ocean of blackness. So there's no fear once you overstand. But if you find refuge in King James text, then you're forever in fear of blackness. Because the symbol of evil in the King James literature is black. It's unfortunate, because nature tells us that gold coming out of the earth is black. They call it black gold, it's oil. So we know about the Madonna, who's black. The original mother, symbol of Isis. So before the Europeans rushed away, black was great. Black was beautiful. Black was a sign of power. It was a sign of a color. It was a state of nature. And the people who are black must recognize their unity with the sun. recognize the unity with the green plants, realize that feelings of inferiority should not exist. The green plants don't feel inferior. The green plants are actually superior because all the other plants become parasites and must live on green plants. There are people in the earth who lack pigmentation and behave in a parasitic way. And I have been a host for too long. It's just an awakening before we can shake off the host, shake off the parasites, and reclaim ourselves as self-reliant people. Metamorphosis, February, AD 2018.
For complete auto repairs and services, come to Akon Auto Technology, located at 33 Bumble Crescent, Port Antonio, Jamaica. We offer specialist services in wheel alignment and wheel balancing, brake drum and disc rotary servicing, state-of-the-art ultrasonic cleaning and testing of your fuel injectors. We also stock an assorted range of auto service parts, tires, and motorcraft batteries. If we don't have it, we will source it for you. Call us at 876-715-5205 or email akonautotech16@gmail.com. Akon Auto Technology, beyond the typical auto mechanic shop.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Titchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610 for more information.
Are you thinking of a place, extraordinary place where you can get a wide variety of Jamaican cuisine, scrumptious local dishes, and at the most affordable price? Zilla's Kitchen has the widest menu to suit your appetite and lifestyle. We're located at Bridge Street, Port Antonio. Place your order for pickup or delivery service. Call us at 453-6030. That's 453-6030. Zilla's Kitchen, the restaurant of choice. We never close. We never close.
If you really check what I is saying, as it relates to how we construct it physiologically, there is a brain and the spinal column, and it is considered that these are the two major is the major nerve cell systems of the body. And it's the nervous systems and the nervous cells that gives us information from the outside world, the nerve system. When your nervous system under stress, so the person can just mash down because your nerves, you can say when a man having weak nerves or you want to eat certain food to strengthen your nerves because these nerves are vital. So from scientific analysis, the two major cell systems that deal with nerves is really the brain and the spinal column. But what we have to recognize now that beyond, according to the discovery now of Malpighi, when Malpighi discovered these nerve cells in the pigment, in the epidermis of the skin, it suggested that not only do we have a brain system and a cell system, but we have a skin system of memory. So there's a melanated pigment nerve cell system that's in the epidermis skin. A system now, not just a little piece of skin, a system. And this system I am suggesting now is the structure that is the foundation, the neurological foundation upon which the soul or the psychology or the psyche of African people or black people is established upon that nervous system. So if we don't claim our skin, we can claim that foundation nervous system. And this nervous system now has the ability to absorb feelings and store them and record these feelings. And these feelings now that I'm speaking about now is emotional feeling that gives us the base for our collective ancestral memories. So our ancestral memories don't dwell in the sky. Our ancestral memories dwell in our pigmented nerve cell system. That's what stores the memories. The genetic memories. What I'm calling now racial memories. These memories are stored in the epidermis level of the skin. So unless we know where it is, we can't tap into it. So if we understand the power of our skin now, it's not just something to sweat out of. There is a nerve system that gives black people an extra sense, cerebroperceptual system, that allows I to be more in. Look here, where in the pyramids and all them things, and the Sphinx and all them genius things come from? The calendars and the chemistry and the mathematics. It's coming out of ourselves. But there's a deeper storage site than just the brain. And we're talking about the skin. And we look in embryology, the skin appears before the brain. The first organ that surfaces is the skin, providing protection for all that is going to come within, and carrying genetic memory, carrying the talents of the child potential stored in the skin. So I put that forward and say ones and ones must begin to re-examine themselves through them skin and test the powers of feeling. How is it we communicate with each other without feeling? You go somewhere and you see somebody you never seen them before, but you just feel like you know them long time. Where does that consciousness emerge from? I am saying to the item, it's not the brain. And it's not the spinal column. It's the skin. It's a mighty, mighty skin. And this is the power that the Europeans spending all them life making sure say we don't resurrect. If I resurrect that power, them have to go back into the caves. Them have to go retreat. So this month, as we examine and explore and celebrate, because I celebrate the epidermis skin. Because I celebrate the nervous system in our skin. We can acknowledge that we have an extra nervous system. Extra meaning what other races don't have, but the Europeans don't have. They call it ESP. And I say it's an extra sensory perceptual system improves our ability to perceive, not just what is within ourselves now, but what is outside. And that is maybe the link to what we're going to call spirituality, where we are able to connect emotionally to the environment, connect to the mother, which is nature, knowing the powers of the female, recognize the complementarity between the female and the male. So I've never been in struggle with nature. The Europeans born in a struggle against nature. It is the nature of the European to struggle against nature because the ice ages and the ice culture is brutal. The warmth is absent and there's no feeling coming from the skin of the European. So that's why we say the European lacks soul. Because the soul of the African really could also be found in his skin. The emotions, the memories, why the music sounds soulful, why the food is cooked with soul, why we do things soulfully, is really with the pigmentation power that we are really expressing. So we could claim ourselves. We could claim Africa, that we can claim the land, and we could claim blackness, so we can claim our spirituality and recognize our true powers as a race. Metamorphosis.
Kidapa munjul, wanyande kesawai. Kidapa munjul, one machiki munjul. Kidapa munjul, dafnin rafet yung wentamenda ingama. Dafnin rafet yung wentamenda ingara. Dafnin rafet yung wentamenda ingara. Did you know? That's a richer Africa. Did you know? That's a richer Africa. Did you know? Said the whole world love it. Did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud, you got to hold on to it. Be proud of your culture. Walking down the road in Germany, reggae music playing, and this is what one man was saying. Was ist denn das? Was ich da höre? Ich kann nicht anders, muss einfach tanzen. Bis Stück der Reggae, manchmal macht man ein bisschen lauter. Niemals in meinem Leben habe ich so etwas gehört. Meine Damen und Herren und alle Brüder und Schwestern, ich muss euch jetzt verlassen, weil ich fliege nach Jamaika. Tschüss, bis bald, ich komme irgendwann wieder. Es macht mich Spaß, es gibt mich Kraft und Energie wie ein Tiger. Es macht mich Spaß, es gibt mich Kraft und Energie wie ein Tiger. Did you know? That's a richer Germany. Did you know? That's a richer Germany. Did you know? Said the whole world love it. Did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud, you got to hold on to it. Be proud of.
It glitters and shines like a beautiful stream. Hey, hey, it's here in this world and it's reigning supreme. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Knowledge and wisdom will lead us to freedom. Hey, hey, let us seek first the heavenly kingdom. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Sodom and Gomorrah, we don't wanna see. Mama world empire, we don't wanna see the world turn into a cemetery. Don't wanna see the world turn into a cemetery.
Yeah, Metamorphosis running through into the final 10 minutes of this edition. And this reason will never come to a close. because there's always more to unlearn and there's always more to learn. But I must be more focused on the unlearning, because for 2,000 years we have been absorbing all that we have been given to the point where we know it too well. And so we find it difficult to even challenge it because it's almost like second nature now. And what is becoming more difficult to overcome now is people who don't think, and when you ask them questions, they make a reference to the Bible. Or they give you a cliche, which means they have shut down their intellectual powers and they're running on rote. But as much as they are, I know, showing the powers of our skin, what about the people who lack what we have? What about the group of people who lack that nerve system, who lack epidermis, who lack pigmentation? What about the people who lack vibrations that are harmonious with the sun and the plants and the cosmos? Who are these people? Well, we know for sure that the people who lack melanin and lack pigmentation, protection and power, they have certain deficiencies. One of them is the inability to absorb the radiation from the sun. This is the first thing that becomes obvious. Their skin lacking epidermis and melanin is unable to store the radiation from the sun. And because of the dangerous radiation, ultraviolet rays, etc., etc., these people are unable to store that radiation, and so them suffer from skin burn. Them skin burn under the radiation, and they suffer from cancers. So there is no protection. Nature doesn't provide protection by giving them the capacity to produce blackness. Pineal is non-functional. These people are also unable to absorb the energy and to reuse it. Them can't absorb it, them can't store it, and they cannot reuse it. And so you realize that these people are exposed to illnesses. And these illnesses will come because they don't have any natural protection from the Almighty S-U-N, the giver of life. These people are unable to survive under the giver of life. So these people are not into promoting life. Them philosophy is all about death and destruction. And in lacking the protection, they develop a philosophy that turns their enemy or their hatred into something that we also must have a hatred against. So they can't manage the sun. And so in their philosophy, they have the sun as hell. They have hell as a place that is ruled by the sun, when Africa is a place that is ruled by the sun. And Africa is not hell to the black African people. Africa is hell to the Caucasian, because they can't manage the radiation from the sun. So in other words, heat is our paradise. But the philosophy through Christianity make you feel say hell is hot and blazing fire. So the mind will automatically imply that heaven is not hot. So heaven have the AC. Heaven is cool. Heaven is not black. Heaven is white. Heaven has angels that are flitting around with white wings. So the ideology creates imagery. And the imagery is all in opposition to the black identity. So these non-black people who are in a minority in the world population, they have turned around and called black people minorities. So it's another sign of the reverse in the psychology, that the people who are least in numbers in the world are calling those who are most in number in the world a minority. And they are calling the majority of people non-white. So the majority are being defined as a negative. when it is a minority that should be viewed as non-black. Yeah, it's non-black people. And that's what it is, because they are not really white people. They are Caucasians. And they are Caucasians because they are lacking in that property that is called melanin. They are lacking in the spirituality that is driven by pigmentation. They don't vibrate at that level of nature. So we have to use all of these variables and construct and reconstruct the identity of I and I, the enslaved, the descendants of the enslaved. We can no longer be classified as Negroes. As much as Marcus Garvey held on to that term, it has expired its usage. So Garvey's organization should be redefined as Universal African Improvement Association to get more African people to join the organization. Those who are conscious enough to know that we have outgrown Negro. Many of us have also outgrown religion, Christianity and Islam, and have reclaimed the identity of Africanicity, holding on to the mythologies now that are of Africa. The Egyptian mythology of Horus, Isis, and Osiris is very important, because that is what the Europeans have hijacked and transformed into Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. So they hijack our mythology and take out the female out of the myth and inject a ghost. Total disturbance. We have to reclaim that. So this is the month that we are allowed to celebrate. So we have license to say what we need to say and have to say about black people and African people and history. I will say to the item, if we're going to talk about African history, we have to make sure that we are viewing things from an African-centered perspective. In the same way, when the lion is being chased by the hunter, the lion have a different story than the hunter. Different perspective. One is one of being an oppressor, and the other one is one of feeling the oppressed, of being the oppressed. So the hunter becomes the oppressor, and the lion is the oppressed. And when the lion writes a story, it's not the same thing as the story of the hunter. Africans must begin to write their own stories, our own perspectives. And we're not seeking any validation from anybody else, because they too have their stories. The Chinaman has his Sinocentric perspective, Asian view. The Africans, black people, need to recognize that we have Africa as a landmass, and we have our blackness as our state of being, our consciousness, our divinity. Metamorphosis.
Seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. I have never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. He is a humble and dreadlock Nazarene man. Look in yourselves and try to understand why you never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. Hey, all the bald-head Jesus followers start to fret. All the bald-head Jesus followers start to sweat. He said to follow him and he will make me fishes in men. You just leave the barber shop and go on back again, and you never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. There is no synagogue that was built by Jesus Christ. believer on my left, I'll stand up and fight. Oh, yeah, now.
Yeah, Ricky Hoffman, the voice of the youth. Yes. The Bible is a weapon of mass destruction. It is. It has done a lot of damage to the black race, physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Ricky Hoffman saying this. Yes, that them do to it. But we reclaim ourselves. We're in a reclamation process now. Yes, sir.
I'll stand up and fight for my oh, yeah, now. Sadamasagana. Let God be praised. In a positive way. Sadamasagana.
And you know, there's a great black woman in America named Angela Davis. She was at the heat and the heights of Black Power and Black Panther. And Angela Davis says, she said, I am no longer accepting that which I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Sound different? Different. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Angela Davis, revolutionary black woman. Serious difference. So Metamorphosis rolling out for another session. Thanking engineer God today for making it go on. Giving thanks for the listeners, for the WhatsApp reports, and for the Facebook communication, and for the text. This is a critical month that they put on us. We're going to use it in the most critical way. I hear that Bonnie Whaler, Jabby, who will be honored on Sunday at Bournemouth.